We're ready to start. Dad, Mr. Nat Gattinella, distinguished and decorated World War II veteran. Tell us a little bit about the things that are around you right now.
Well, the first thing is the battle map. Just outside of Baccarat, we followed the solid black line. That was the 397th. We followed the little black line. We went through Ramberville, which was down here. We went through Rayon Tape, and we ended up at Burgess Champ on the 24th of November. Then we went up this way we were still in France at this point, and I guess we
And is that the Maginot Line or?
Block.
Yeah.
I don't remember some of these names, but we went through it.
So I see next to you, there's the Sons of Bichet. Is Bichet a town on that map?
Yes. No, it's not on this map, because this map only went until the 26th of November, 44. And the bitch was in December.
Ah.
Here we have the Sons of Bitch Society. All of us that fought for the town of Bitch. We all got a card saying so. And here is a German sign that says, I'll translate it to, "You shall not pass." But we did it anyway. So what would have been a forest where we could not have penetrated, we did end up taking the town, but we did it. Even though the sign says, "No one shall pass."
Nice. So you're a son of bitch.
Okay. Here we have some of the medals, decorations that I received. Here is the Bronze Star. Here is the Purple Heart, Good Conduct, European Theater of Operations with 1 battle star, the Victory Medal, and the Occupation Medal. These are the stripes of the assistant supply sergeant, and I was to have been promoted with a rocker under here, without the T. This was our division patch. We were attached to the 7th Army. Here is the regimental pin showing the terrain where the coal was taken out of Kentucky. And I guess that was where the division first originated. These are nothing more than the ribbons of what these would be. This one is the marksman for expert on the rifle. This one is the one that is I cherish the most. This is the combat infantryman badge. And then these are the regular insignia that we wore on our uniforms. This medal is the French Croix de Gras. But anyway, it is presented in France at the time they were given out. There was a monetary stipend connected with this. But since it was being given to an American, there was no money involved in it.
I see. Is that a paper over there that talks about when you were inducted as a Chevalier
Yes.
with the French Legion?
Here is where the ambassador, French ambassador, pinned the pin or the medal on me, and we were then given the title of knight with the title of Sir. That was all part of this medal. Here is a picture that's Nick Buell drew of me, and at that time I was just with 2 stripes and a T underneath it.
So this was a project that he did?
This is the project that he did. He was assigned to me so that he would be able to draw the picture. And actually, I think he just enlarged a copy of my portrait. But here is the French medal. Here are the ribbons that I one. This one is a big patch that would show the 100th Infantry Division, and we were known as the sons of, I'll say bitch, but it was pronounced beach
Oh, beach. Okay.
in France.
Nice.
That's about it.
Nice. And I see under your Sons of Beach paper there, you've got a book. Tell me about that.
It's something that I called it my service in the armed forces.
So, how old were you when you joined?
Oh, I was well in my 70s when I first started this.
Not when you, how old were you when you first joined the war, when you
Oh.
enlisted?
When I first went into the war, I went down to the draft board on my 18th birthday, and they says, "You're in. You're in the service."
Yay.
So I was given 6 weeks to take care of whatever business I might have had, and then I was in the Army.
So, I know you also had two brothers, Sebastiano and Salvatore.
Yes, I did. And they also served in the Air Force, but they were in, my brother Sebastian, he was flying from England, Africa. I don't think he was ever on the uh, Japanese mainland. But Salvatore, my younger brother, he was in Korea, and he was stationed there in Korea. He more or less was on reconnaissance. My brother Busty was captured by the Germans when they tried to supply Bastogne. And as a result, they were shot down. The pilot maneuvered the plane in such a way that they were all able to jump. He went down with the plane. Captain Wales was his name.
Mm.
The side story to that was the nurse in the hospital where I was wounded had a boyfriend in the same outfit as Sebastian. And he told me that they saw the plane being hit, on fire, and nose down. And the pilot kept the plane even enough so that all the men were able to jump, use the parachutes, but as they landed, they were picked up by the Germans. My brother Sebastian was a prisoner of war from December until April, when he was liberated.
Okay, so your 18th birthday, you've now joined the Army. Is that when you get your dog tags?
Oh, yes, the dog tags. Let me tell you about the dog tags. These are the original that I wore, and there's a bit of rubber around them. They were from an old German gas mask, and it was corrugated. And as I cut these out, they kept the
Jangling.
dog tags from making noise, and they also kept the body warm. There is a notch.
It's off on the side. No, on the side of your...
Oh, there is a notch in the dog tag so that if you were deceased, the little notch on the side here, you were able to put this in the mouth and force it through the teeth under your lower lip, and it was held so that you would then be registered as being deceased, and they would know who you are.
Wow. I'm glad yours was unused.
I never did get to use this part of the wall of the dog tag.
We're glad. But you were wounded,
Yes, I was.
thus earning the Purple Heart.
That's what got me the Purple Heart. I was with the company, and we went into a wooded area, and I guess the Germans knew we were in that area, and they used artillery fire. We were trapped, and there was nothing we could do about it. We were trapped, and the shells fell on us. The squad leader was killed, and I was wounded in the leg, in the stomach, and across my back.
You were right behind him, correct?
Yes.
So
I was within a matter of a few yards just behind the squad leader, and he was killed. I have written a book, My Service in the Armed Forces, and in the book I'm trying to remember different parts of my life in the service.
first of all, how old were you when you were wounded?
How long was I wounded?
Well, how old were you when you were wounded? So you joined when you were 18.
Oh, I was still 18. when I was wounded.
Wow.
I was still 18 years old because that was in December. Of course, my birthday was in January. So I was still 18 years old. And I guess that would have made me a tough veteran. I don't know what else.
Well, I know after so many years, I guess about 20 years ago, you're 98 now,
I'm 98 now.
98 and a half years old. So you started writing this book about 20 years ago?
I did, yes.
Okay, and then sometime you were able to take a trip back to France and back to Germany, or just back to France?
Back to France and to Germany, where the uh, Battle of Heilbronn, Heilbronn took place, and that was more or less the end of the war.
Um,
But in
I know you
France,
have a picture in there of what it looked like when you were in the war, and then, the 20 years later. I don't know, I'll give you a minute to just kind of find it. That's interesting. But I know there's one of you standing by the building that has the bullet holes in the bricks.
yes, that was in Rayon Le Tape.
It's amazing to go back there so many years later and see it. But the townspeople were happy to have you back as veterans.
And absolutely, they had, wherever the town was that we went in, they had wine tasting, celebration, and we were afforded all of the amenities. Oh, that would be a picture of the ship, the George Washington. It eventually burned out there in New York Harbor. But this vessel was built in 1911. It was about 700 feet long. We were fortunate that we had the top bunk, or the first floor, that we were on duty throughout the ship, and we were allowed being on the first deck. There was about 5,000 of us in the ship. On the top is a picture of us going through machine gun fire in Rayon Le Tape. And I have got a bigger picture of us when we went back with Virginia and I went back in 2004. We went back to France, and we saw the building that had been strafed by gunfire.
How did it feel to go back there? Was it a weird feeling, or just grateful you survived, or
It was
just
a weird feeling, but I thought the ground would have shook as I stood at the corner, but it didn't shake.
didn't shake?
Nothing happened.
Thank goodness. Thank goodness. I also know that you play the trombone. You're a musician.
Yes.
So tell me about that. When did you start playing the trombone? How old were you?
Oh, I guess I was about 12 years old when I started playing the trombone. Seventh grade at the Stephen Barker School. Our director was he was part of Sousa's band
Wow.
at the time, and he was teaching me how to play the trombone. And of course, I also played while I was in the service. We played it for someone's wedding, and
Were you in recovery at that point
at that point I was in recovery, yes.
from your wound? And I know you had a story that Sky was getting married, but they wanted music, and so they rounded up.
A man came by on the uh, on the Saturday, because the wedding was on Sunday, and he wanted to get some kind of an orchestra to play at this friend of his, the marriage. When we went, so that was on Saturday, and on Sunday morning, he rounded us up, and we were able to get out of camp on the road to where the wedding took place.
So who was there? You had a trombone player. What else? You have a trumpet player, drums, what?
We didn't have a trumpet player. We had trombone, clarinet, saxophone, drums, piano, and no trumpet.
But none of you had ever played before, correct?
And we had never seen each other. We never played with each other. We never saw each other. Even then, after we finished playing, that was late at night, we went back to the base, back to the camp, by the same entrance or exit, and no one knew that we were even gone. The next morning, which reminds me of the time as I was recuperating from the wounds, there was a story that I remembered as being half blind. I needed glasses. The doctor was in a hurry. He dilated the pupils. They didn't dilate fast enough for him. He gave me a double dose, and when they did dilate, he made up the prescription for the glasses. I had a pass to go into town that night. They were hard to get by. They were hard to come by, but I got one anyway. And when I went into town, I realized that I could not see.
Right.
And as such, I was walking out of the street. Cabs were honking their horn at me. People were telling me to get out of the street. Got on the sidewalk, and I think I was slightly drunk by the time we got back to our hospital. And I was able to get in just before bed call, and that was when I jumped into bed, clothes and all, and the sergeant went by with the flashlight, checked us all in, and then I got sick. Boy, did I get sick. All that booze and the beer. But anyway, the next morning I was feeling better and went to breakfast. That's about...
A memorable night.
Oh, yes. Memorable memory that can't be taken away.
Yeah.
And they feel as though they were just yesterday.
Mm-hmm. I know you had once, maybe I misunderstood the story, but when you were coming home on the boat, did you see Glenn Miller's plane or?
Okay, I was wounded on the 4th of December, and I was in the hospital in France. Then finally on the 14th of December, we were by boat sent to England. And as such, we were in the channel when we heard a plane overhead. There was fog. We couldn't see too much, but we think that it was Glenn Miller's plane, and it just passed overhead. At that time, it was still flying. It was not noisy as far as the engine running smooth. We think that one of the bombers coming back from a raid on Germany was unloading his bombs, and one of the bombs hit Miller's plane, and it went down in the channel.
Oh my goodness. So kind of like friendly fire, only
friendly fire, but
Oh, definitely unintentional. Oh, that's a shame.
yeah.
When did you realize that that might have been his plane?
Oh, the next day when they said that his plane was down, and we had heard it during the night when we were in the fog, and the uh, we were in the ship, and the plane was overhead, and we think that that was the plane that Miller was on that we heard during the night, because we were in the channel at the same time that he was involved in the incident that brought him down.
Wow. So thinking of Glenn Miller and his band and stuff, were there any USO shows that you saw while you were over there?
Yes, we saw one show at the Bob Hope Field, and we were in France at the time, and there was Jigs Falkenberg. Oh, there was a few others, and it was a good show, and it was at the Bob Hope Field in France. But then we saw another show while we were in New Jersey, waiting for us to be boarded on the steamer, the George Washington. We saw that show. That was a good show, too. But what we do remember from Jinx is she was a tennis player, I think, and she had the tennis racket, and she was hitting a few of the ball out to the audience. It was a lot of fun.
Neat, pretty neat. So, as far as the rest of the stories, we should read your book.
Yes. Yes. My service in the armed forces. By me.
Mr. Nat Gattinella.
There was a time when, at the company we were in, had replacements. We were the replacements. And there was 29 Dago names, Italian names, and one McGee. How he got in that list, I'll never know. But there was a Fiandello, there was a Rogo, Moscato, Gattinella.
You made him an honorary Italian?
We made him, well, not really. He didn't want any part of our group. But we were there, and we were there stationed at the chateau. I don't know if I have a. The bottom picture would be of the chateau. I think the top picture is where we were a group of the Italians.
That's great. And are you on the bottom? Were you
That
on the
was
bottom?
me on the bottom. That was me on the bottom, yes. There was Fiandello, there was a Rogo, Fiandello, Rogo. The guy at the top now, I forget what it is.
Yeah.
There was a Masticoni. Nato, Moscato, Caruso, Cipriano, Schiavone, Messina, Gallo. Those are just some of the names.
Very interesting. Well, I'm glad you survived.
Yes.
So you didn't see battle for very long, but
Just
know.
long enough that all during the time that I was discharged till up until a couple of years ago, had a gallbladder operation, came home that same night. I was taken by 911 back to the hospital, had a heart attack. My daughter Frances came with her daughter, and they took care of me. I was not able to use my legs, but they cooked my meals, did my medicine, and I guess they told me that at one time I've almost froze, couldn't move, and that probably would have been my second heart attack, and that's the one that kept me from using my legs.
Well, that put you into hospice, which you were in hospice for a year.
Hospice for a year,
That was
and I was discharged from the hospice.
almost a year
and
ago.
That was a year ago. And I had a caretaker. His name was Walter. He did take care of me. He saw that I was doing my exercises, and well, he saw that I walked with the walker. He tried with the cane, but that didn't work out. I was too unsteady with the cane. So I used the walker, and I was able to get from one room to the next. But then I would sit down in a transport chair that would get me to the table.
You certainly look good now. So
Oh, yes.
we are so glad.
I feel a lot better than I did a year ago.
That is true. All right. Well, I want to thank you for sharing with us all of your memories of the service, good and bad. They certainly,
There would be,
they certainly are something.
yes, there's stories.
Stories there to tell. All right. Well, Mr. Nat Gattinella, thank you very much for
I thank you.
telling us and giving us your time. We wish you the best of luck in everything.
Thank you.